And there's a huge story in the Daily Mirror today. I can show it to you. Look, here it is. And the headline is Joe and the refuse. Let's just take a look. At the moment, Joe Biden referred to Donald Trump's supporters as garbage.
And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
So he clearly does call Trump supporters garbage. Well, of course, this garbage comment brought back memories from when Hillary Clinton in 2016 referred to Trump's supporters, do you remember this, as deplorables?
You know, to just be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right?
Since then, Joe Biden tweeted saying his comment was directed at the comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who made a joke at a New York Trump rally branding Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage, and not aimed at Trump's wider fan base. But, Mike, I don't know if you're at all convinced by that. I think what Biden said was quite clear, particularly for Joe Biden, wasn't it?
I can accept that Joe Biden got muddled up again, because we know that's why he's no longer running as president, because he got muddled up all the time. But they've made a terrible mistake here. When Joe Biden stood down as the runner for the White House, they put him in a bunker, literally in a bunker in Delaware, his home state, and he hasn't been out since. He comes out once and he made this terrible gaffe. I'm sure he probably meant he was only referring to the individual who delivered the original insult, but he got his wording all wrong, and it looked like he was calling all Trump supporters garbage.
Well, Caroline, you could say it didn't look like that. That's exactly what he did do.
I mean,
he did call them garbage.
Yeah, language matters. And personally, I don't think that's acceptable. As a politician, you have to be very, very aware of how you speak, especially about your opponent's supporters, because just because someone isn't politically on your page does not mean to say that you shouldn't respect them or show them courtesy or even like them. We're all human beings at the end of the day. So I think it maybe misspoke, but I think it was a wrong thing to say.
And in this country, we had our mini version of that, didn't we, when Angela Rayner called Tories memorably scum, which wasn't charming either. Yeah. In Washington 2 days ago, Kamala Harris told her supporters she would be a president for all Americans.
And to people who disagree with me, unlike Donald Trump, I don't believe people who disagree with me are the enemy. He wants to put them in jail. I'll give them a seat at the table.
And, Micah, we're supposed to be at a sort of political level and also at a human level capable of debate. We're meant to be able to discuss and discourse without being at deadly warfare and daggers drawn, aren't we?
Well, yes, but I mean, I think over the last decade, certainly the last few years, politics has got more and more dirty, hasn't it, in terms of street fighting, you know, and I'm not referring to a Labour MP recently, I don't mean literally street fighting, but what I mean is the Trump era brought out the very direct attack on your enemies, and there's no doubt that has floated across the Atlantic to this country, and there are some politicians in this country who are very forthright speakers. It's changed, hasn't it, Caroline?
I think I say this all the time, but I think social media has contributed to that because people feel quite comfortable to attack you on social media and feel that they're entitled to say anything, and that does flow down onto the streets and how we talk to each other. There seems to be a huge confidence that people can say negative things to you and get away with it, which you wouldn't do out of politics. You wouldn't go into a supermarket and be derogatory to the sales assistant because it wouldn't be acceptable. But in politics, it seems to be, open season, and it's not nice. It's not a nice way to be.
Actually, it's an obvious own goal. I mean, you shoot yourself in the foot if you just insult and abuse your opponent rather than discuss and attempt to convince them and set out your stall and explain your arguments. You've kind of, the battle's over. You've already lost.
I've lost it. And Caroline's point about social media, just I'm a football fan, OK? I get lots of abuse on social media. But the minute I meet that person at a football ground, they're as nice as pie, honestly. And you're absolutely right. Social media gives people an invisible front to be horrible, which they wouldn't necessarily stand up to in person.
Arnold Schwarzenegger shared his support for Kamala Harris. He said the only way to move forward as a country is to vote for Harris. Do you think he's got a point, Caroline?
Definitely. I mean, yes, obviously I want to see Kamala Harris win this election. more than I want to see Donald Trump lose it. Because I don't think Donald Trump will be good for America,
And some
for globally.
people will be thinking, Carolyn, why do you want Kamala to be successful when nobody really seems very sure what she stands for,
as a
including
woman,
her?
I think as a woman, I think Donald Trump will be absolutely disastrous for women. I think he will roll back on all women's rights. The abortion thing. I mean, I have strong feelings that we should be pro-choice and we should be able to make decisions about our own bodies. I don't think he has a lot of respect for anyone who doesn't support him, as we've seen from his narrative. And I think that Arnie coming out for her is absolutely brilliant, and I'll be back.
Do you share Carolyn's reservations about Donald Trump?
No, I don't. I share her beliefs that there's problems on both sides, you know. But in my view, what really worried me last week was the meeting of the BRICS countries, OK? You know, Brazil and Iran all getting together. Now, they are an axis of evil against the West, in my view, OK? Putin is there meeting them all. That really worried me. And I believe that Donald Trump is the only candidate of the two who can stand up to that sort of intimidation from people who want to destroy our way of life.
And that shared belief might well be what propels him into the White House, that he's the guy that will stand up, he's the guy that will do the unorthodox.
I think
that's
totally agree.
part of his kind of charisma and part of what convinces people. Let's move